Hey everybody, thanks for watching. This is Andrew from Schnauzerface Minis. First, I hope you guys are all having a fantastic holiday season and a great close to 2012. Today, we've got a Cryx Bloat Thrall, which was actually one of the very first minis I ever purchased. It's been gathering dust for nearly a year and a half, but now he's finally got some paint on him. And Privateer Press really went the extra mile on this one. If you pry off the helmet, you can see they actually sculpted a face. And holy cow, it is Kristen Stewart. And she looks ticked off. Or maybe happy. Kinda hard to tell. I start with a mix of 1-to-1 Minotaur sewage water and rotted flesh. Minotaur is Badger's new line of airbrush-ready paints geared toward wargamers. Overall, they're a pretty nice line of paints. I like having pre-thin paints that are vibrant and saturated, as opposed to the muted earth tones that dominate the Vallejo Model Air range. The value is also a welcome bonus. Each bottle is 30 milliliters rather than the usual 16 or 17. The metallics range is limited, but still effective. The silvers can't compete with the VMA silvers in terms of smoothness or coverage, but the gold, brass, and copper actually look like gold, brass, and copper. Unfortunately, the paints tend to separate quickly, and I really dislike the bottles. I think they're frosted or tinted in some way, because the paints look considerably different in the droppers than they do on the palette. I didn't notice clogging to be a huge problem, but they did clog more often than my VMA paints. I wouldn't suggest buying a whole new set to replace paints you've already got, but if you're already in the market for new paints, these are absolutely worth a look. I still think Vallejo Model Air is the best overall line of acrylics for the airbrush, but Minotaur's colorful tones, great value, excellent selection of inks, and a few great metallics make them a pretty close second. I thin Minotaur Ghost Tint Green down 1 to 6 with water and cover the entire model. This will give his skin a rotting, putrid look. I use thinned down Ghost Tint Blue to add veins to the skin. It's kinda hard to pick up on camera, but it does add a nice effect close up. Minotaur makes a dozen shades of ghost tints, which are essentially pre-thinned inks. As you guys know, I love using inks to tint and saturate colors, so I'm pretty excited about these. I use Secret Weapon Violet pigment to add some color variations into the shadows and other parts of the flesh. I seal the pigments and protect the underlying layers with gloss varnish. This also provides a slick surface for an oil wash, which will come next. I just want to say that I hope you're finding this Bloat Thrall tutorial to be enthralling. I will never understand how I always manage to get paint underneath my fingernails. Every single time. My 3-year-old nephew can finger paint and still walk away cleaner than I do. This mini is so fat, his cereal bowl comes with a lifeguard. This mini is so fat, I took a picture of him last February and it's still printing. This mini is so fat, he walked in front of the TV and I missed 4 episodes. I attack the oozy stuff with a base of fluorescent green, but I have my wet palette handy for shading and highlighting. A wet palette is a great way to mix color tones for smooth, easy blending. A wet palette is basically just a plastic tray, a wet sponge, and baking paper. Paint will absorb moisture from the sponge through the paper, and it'll keep the paint wet for hours. But it's most useful for blending colors. It's easy to make a smooth gradient from one tone to the next on a wet palette. Then I can just go in and select any shade between the 2 colors. To weather the metals, I grind down rust-colored pigments and mix them with water to a wash consistency. When the water evaporates, the pigments will stay behind in a dry, rusty texture. Cheap, easy, and effective. For source lighting, I'm taking some cues from Les at Awesome Paint Job. He starts by lightly coating the area with white, then adding thin layers of the glow on top of that. It's a great method for source lighting and the results are fantastic. So thank you, Les. I thin matte medium 1:1 with water and pool it on the base. This will act as a glue for the dry pigments so they'll stay fixed in place. I wanted some hints of green in the ground, so I start with a really bright green pigment. Then I mix in some red to dirty it up before introducing black to get it to a dark, filthy green color. I add some fluorescent green paint to the realistic water for puddles of sludge. Paints and inks mix really well with realistic water, so it's a fun and easy way to add atmospheric colors to your scene. And that should just about do it. I hope you guys all have a great New Year's, and I want to say thank you all so much for sticking with me in 2012. I am really excited about learning new things and growing even more in 2013, and I hope you guys will be right there with me. So be safe at your New Year's celebrations, enjoy your time off work, and I'll be back soon with another one. Thanks so much for watching!